Hello and welcome to our very first Bosch Global sofa session. My name is Milena. I'm working in digital communications at Bosch, and it is my great pleasure to be your host today. That's probably all you need to know about me, because here with me is a wonderful guest that we're having here today that I'm going to introduce to you in a bit. First of all, though, what is it that we're going to do here today? Why are we even here? What can you guys expect in the next 20 minutes? So we, as a digital communications team at Bosch, we thought a lot about how we could contribute to times like these, to times of a global pandemic. How could we add value? So on the one hand, what we did is that we started to use the reach of our social media channels to share important news and information about COVID-19 and about the coronavirus. But considering that we are forced to be at home right now and spend most of our day at home, see and talk to the exact same people day by day, we asked ourselves, how could we still entertain? How could we inspire you and give you the opportunity to take something out of this crisis? And that's what we came up with, our sofa sessions. We want to provide you with the most valuable good that we're having at our company, which is our fantastic associates, our colleagues, and their expertise. So we want to give you the chance to talk to them, interact with them, ask questions, leave comments about different topics. That's what we're going to do within the next 20 minutes. How does that sound? I hope that sounds good. In order to do so, one important thing, I'd like to encourage you to activate the video function of your laptop, your smartphone, your tablet, so that our guest and I can see you. But please remain muted unless you want to ask a question. Then just write in the chat, jump up and down in front of your camera, raise your hand, and I'll be able to see you and unmute you. All right, let's get started. Let's start with a little mental exercise to get ourselves in the right mood for the topic that we're going to talk about. Imagine that on your coffee table, your desk, your kitchen table, a crystal ball would appear. And you would have the one time only chance to see the future, right now and right here. What is it yet that you think you'd see? What has the future in store for us? If you have an answer to that question, or even a rough idea, feel free to share in the chat so that we can see with which ideas you came up with. Would be pretty interesting to see. If you ain't no fortune tellers, then that's of course also not a problem, because that's why we're here today and we came prepared. Because our very first session is about looking beyond, a talk with Bosch futurist Andre Heinke. And Andre, that's your signal. Hi, Andre.
Hey, good to see you, Milena.
Great that we're having you here today. Thanks for being here and thanks for joining. Andre, are fortune tellers and futurists the exact same thing? What do you say?
No, not at all. Both sound a little bit suspicious. A fortune teller is probably wealthier than a futurist, I'd suppose.
So how do you earn your money with? What is it that you do?
I do openly say that the future is unknown and nobody can really pretend to know. And I'm quite suspicious of people who claim that they know the future. So all we can do is to plausibly think about possible future scenarios, about developments, in the near future about chances and risks. So to speak, think in advance. That's all we can do.
How exactly do you do that? Do you have a crystal ball for that? And give us a little insight into how your daily work looks like.
Well, as I'm a tea drinker, I do have tea leaves, but I do not know how to read them. So I prefer to talk to people who are experts in their particular fields. And those people are most often people who are scientists who are dealing with a specific topic for a long time, who know things in depth, and who do not rephrase what they read this morning in the newspaper, but who have their own thoughts, who most often do not have ready answers, but questions. And most often those questions that are open lead us further.
Has your work changed due to the crisis that we're having right now?
Yes, indeed. I planned a trip to Asia as I wanted to write about an ASEAN country, as always. I had to cancel it, unfortunately, and a few interviews I scheduled for next week. I had to cancel as well. One was with a Weizsäcker fellow from our foundation. She had to fly back to Moscow as Russia was closing its borders. So she was on one of the last one or two flights. It was pretty bad because so far the whole edition of the next Megatrend report has been delayed. And I plan to publish it this year, but not after summer, but before Christmas. That's probably what I optimistically deal with right now.
Now that you've already mentioned the Megatrend report, I mean, that's one of the great publications that you publish annually for Bosch. But what exactly is the Megatrend report? Maybe you can tell us a little more about that.
Yes, thanks for mentioning it. The Megatrend report basically is a book that comprises the expertise of those outside experts. The Megatrend report tries to answer a few questions by talking to those experts and asks a couple of questions without answers. And basically it's a provocation, a positive one, to think about questions, interactions, risks and chances. And because it's a book, sounds a little bit old-fashioned. We have an electronic edition, we have an e-paper as well, but a printed thing that you can sit down with, read in the plane, read on your sofa right now. This is something that is not to be read by all and everything, but you pick what you like. As much as our company is as big as it is, as diverse as it is, the expertise that we have inside tells me when I talk to people that in the Megatrend report are topics that are of interest to so many, because it's not day-to-day work. It's something that is longer term, but nevertheless, people are very much interested in it.
Okay. Well, again, I would like to encourage everyone to ask questions if you like. Just write it in the chat if you already have questions for Andre. Otherwise, I will just continue. We do have one from Marcus already. So I'm gonna unmute you, Marcus, so that you can ask your question yourself.
Hi, Andre. Hello.
Hey, Marcus.
I was wondering, since we all became so used to doing things like this one, using Zoom and video conferencing and working remotely, I was wondering whether after the lockdown will end, will we all go back to the office just like before, or do you think that we will keep on working remotely more often than before the lockdown? So basically, I guess the question is, do companies still need big offices?
Mm. Yes, yes and no. I mean, we all long to go back to the office. We all long to be back in normal times, but this is the new normal. The office will not be the same. The entry to the building will probably include a measurement of your temperature, or you will be required to wear a mask to keep your distance to your colleagues. So for some time to come, those conditions will be something else than normal. And of course, the whole business world is under pressure financially. And so it is much more cost effective to do a conference on Zoom or on Skype. And the finance guys will tell us, why don't you keep that way? Why don't you stay where you are? You don't have to go where the next conference would be. And of course, you don't need that much office space. Office space is expensive. So those are things that will change. It will be much more a cost question, a health question, and of course something that will kind of react to the health conditions at that time. I think for the next 1.5, 2 to 3 years, conditions will be something else than what we knew before.
Thank you.
Cool, thanks. We already have another question for you, André, from Patrick, one of the Patricks that we're having here today. Patrick, I just unmuted you.
Yeah. Can you hear me? I think so. Hi, Andre. What I would like to know is when we talk about megatrends, the big megatrends of today are like globalization, individualization, let's say digitalization. Do you think that another megatrend like health, for example, or security will become more relevant and more dominant, and maybe even I don't know, we won't talk about climate action anymore or something like that, that this is in the background?
Yes, indeed, Patrick. Health has been a mega trend as globalization, as energy and climate. I think the awareness that conditions can turn for the worse in a very short time, there are tipping points for so-called normal conditions. This will stay at least for our generation. I do not know about children. Within 20, 25 years, memory might fade, but for us, we will never forget it, and health will for sure be more important.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks. You again, Patrick. Andre, I'm also having, it's a rather personal question. I would like to know, and I'm kind of dying to know, how you personally feel at the moment about the future. I mean, I get the impression that you're dealing a lot with different scenarios, and that you also, you dig very deep into the Corona topic, and you know how it'll affect our society. So how do you personally feel about the future?
I'm an optimist, Milena. I put things in perspective. It's not a war. It's not something like an effective, very deadly disease where half of those infected will die. So far, the mortality rate is quite low, 1% around. That doesn't sound too terrible, but you might compare it to the risk that is 200 times more than giving birth or that would be the same risk level as circling the globe on a motorcycle 2.5 times. So it is something to be aware of, especially for our parents, for our grandparents. So if you ask me personally, I'm quite afraid for the health of my father, who is 93 years old, of my parents-in-law, and of course of people that are neighbors. We try to help them as you will do. But of course, I hope very much that this will be over as soon as people, specialists, will find a new way to be quite aware of the risks. But that might take 1.5 years. And you do not know what mutation or what different risk might come in addition to what we have now.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for sharing. We do have 2 more questions, I think, that we can squeeze into. First one is from Katharina. I'm going to unmute you right now. There you go.
Yeah, hi, Andre. You already talked about the megatrends, and you're dealing with them all the time. And so my question would be, how do you think the virus or the crisis now will affect these megatrends, or how will change them, or something like that? Is there anything that you could already tell us about that?
I think, Katharina, that the awareness for health topics is much more important to people. Their personal security, the sense that they are affected, that their families are concerned. This is something that they want to read about. Some other crises that might be even more important, but it doesn't feel so. So you care about the next days, you care about if your family will be able to go on vacations to Spain or to Italy. And those things are important.
Thank you, Anna.
I think a pretty great last question comes from Elena. Also going to unmute you right now. Go for it.
Hi. It sounds really great what you tell about your job, and it sounds really interesting. So what I'd like to know is, what do you love most about your job and about being a futurist?
Yes, thanks, Elena. The best thing is not to take myself too seriously and not to think that I'm an expert in something. But the good thing is you meet experts who really know what they talk about. You travel to places where you find out new things. You get to ask questions that probably have not been dealt with. And the good thing is, inside Bosch, you have people who appreciate that, who are interested in those interactions, in correlations, in chances and risks. And those talks, lectures, discussions, those are the best parts of the job.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. To wrap this session up, I want you, on a count of 5, to type 1 word into the chat about how you felt about today's session or what your major takeaway was. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I think the diversity of opinions, the greatness of our company, and basically the technological ease of how we could do this, that is great. And it keeps me optimistic.
Inspiring, this rocks. Great. Be aware. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thanks to you, Andre. I also think it was pretty inspiring. It was great talking to you. Thank you to all you out there for joining, and see you next time.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.